thank you very much, Les. Look,
this is allegedly Senator Mark Furner, but who's ever heard of him?
And their elders past and present on the land which we gather here this morning in this beautiful location on the strand of Townsville. Can I also acknowledge Margie Dale, Les Moffat, and congratulate them once again for the excellent work they've done in making this day come together. It's the first time I've ever participated in a Townsville Labor Day March, and it won't be the last. Can I also acknowledge Craig Wallace? I saw him behind me in the march, member for Gower, sorry. You can notice it's not my part of the world up here, but although I've travelled up here quite often. Can I also acknowledge Mayor Les Tyrrell, also the other councillors, and Jenny Hill, and those that are present here today. And also a couple of candidates. Also we have David Smith, who's the Secretary of my union, the ASU, and also the third spot on the Senate ticket this year, the most important spot on the Senate ticket that needs to be gained. And also Tony Moody on the left over there, the candidate for Labor in Herbert, or most of you, I understand, up here refer to Herbert as Townsville. It's equally important that we pick up the Labor spot for Herbert in this part of the world. And also Bruce Mackey from the RTBU, a great candidate for workers' rights and a very active member for the RTBU. Look, the message I'd like to deliver today is the reality of those of you that thought that work choices is dead. We have an opposition government in the name of Tony Abbott, and it's embedded in their DNA that work choices isn't dead. They want to reach in the grave. They've already reached in the grave of work choices that Labor buried and pulled it out again, and is breathing fresh air in the lungs of that old work choices that they don't wish to name it as that, and breathe air into the lungs of their old work choices and give it birth again. They want to introduce things like Australian workplace agreements. They want to bring back unfair dismissal laws for workers in the most vulnerable parts of our community, in those small businesses. They want to do away with your penalty rates as well. And that's a disgrace from a opposition that realised for 11 years that was in government, threw them out of government through the excellent work of the ACTU and combined union movement and Your Rights for Work campaign in the lead up to the 2007 elections. And if you doubt me on that, let me reflect on some of the words that Tony Abbott has embedded in history, in Hansard and in the media. Firstly, on Australian workplace agreements, these are his comments. He says the next coalition government will ensure that once again employers and employees are able to negotiate their own working arrangements where they generally agree. He goes on further indicating that one of the most important Howard government policies have been introduced on Australian workplace agreements negotiated with indigent workers in which unions have no part at all. Furthermore, he goes on in regards to unfair dismissals, and he quotes that, you know, for 4 elections running we've had a mandate to take unfair dismissal monkey off your back for small businesses, and we'll once again seek that mandate at 4 elections running. We've had a mandate to introduce statutory non-union contracts, and we will seek a renewal of that mandate. So, you know, in summary, this is a guy that is not giving up on work choices. He hates the union movement with a passion. He's indicated to Kerry O'Brien that I should point out that just because work choices is dead, it doesn't mean we don't still see a need for free, fair labour market, and I would certainly like to see less union power that we have been witnessing over the Rudd government. But digressing just slightly, we've heard some comments today reflected on the ABCC. I just want to make this point that
get ready for the big lie.
And I have the speech here with me of Tony Abbott, his second reading into the House of Representatives, where the Rudd Labor government sought to diminish the powers of the ABCC to some regard. And in his response, this is in part in his speech, he refers to, and he opens it by saying, let me begin by contributing to this debate by reminding members that workplace reform was one of the greatest achievements of the Howard government. And in closing, he singles out the CFMEU. He firstly he claims to indicate that the Labor government has capitulated to the shop assistants union in Australian Workers Union, but then he comes to the CFMEU, he claims that we have capitulated to the construction division of the CFMEU, the most militant, the most lawless and the most violent union in this country. Well look, when I look around today on a Labor Day where we have families with their parents, their mothers and their fathers enjoying rides in this great location, I don't see violent people. I see people with families, with passion, that have come along to commemorate the reasons why we acknowledge Labor Day and celebrate it. This is the type of person you're dealing with as an opposition, and the type of person, if we don't get behind the backing of a return of a Labor government, we don't get behind backing Tony Mooney, we don't get behind backing the third spot in the Senate ticket, we're going to have a return of a opposition government that is compelled and trained in their DNA to do away with those types of conditions that union has fought long and hard for. Before I entered politics, I was a union official for over 20 odd years. I was a delegate 18 years. I was committed to the union cause and the Labor cause, and that's one of the reasons I took up my position in the Senate as the third spot to defeat the Howard government and do away with work choices. And so it's important that we ensure that that doesn't occur. Just digressing slightly on another matter, I was watching the Sky News yesterday as a result of the Henry review came about, and this is another example of Tony Abbott's view on workers' conditions. He completely criticised the Labor government's objective of increasing the superannuation contributions from currently 9% to 12%. Criticise it. The last time the superannuation contributions went up was when we had a Labor government. That's why I'm pushing the point and making the point here today. We can't afford to relax. We need to get behind and making sure we retain Labor and win more seats, particularly up this way, and win that third spot on the Senate ticket. So thank you very much for having me here today. And once again, thanks Margie. She's been asking me for a couple of years to come up. It's my pleasure to be along here today. Thank you.
He's doing that with a big bloody germ.